I spent the rest of that day, after I returned, mindlessly, with idle thoughts of spring, looking again at this mess in front of me, with Patrick standing nearby. As he said, there was nothing to do. Patrick acted as a bystander, turning this trivial matter into a theft of the gods of Troy. Can you feel Thoreau's sense of humor? What does it mean to steal the gods of Troy? In the Trojan War, why couldn't Troy be attacked for a long time? One theory is that Athena's statue has been in the city of Troy. So the Greeks sent someone to secretly steal Athena's statue in order to enter the city. Which is a very important story in Greek mythology. So Thoreau humorously said that his little helper stood by and reminded him that someone had stolen nails, which was as big an event as stealing that statue. And in the 19th century, nails were expensive, even more expensive than the prices today, and we'll talk about the price of nails later, because iron was so rare. I began to live in my house on the 4th of July, when it was just boarded and roofed, the edges of the boards being carefully thinned and nailed crosswise over each other, so as to keep the rain from seeping in. But before putting on the boards, I laid the foundation for the chimney at one end of the house, with 2 loads of stones, both of which were brought up the hill from the lake. After hoeing in the fall, I had the chimney built, when there was no need of a fire to keep warm. And in the meantime, I cooked on the floor outside in the early morning hours. I still think, in some ways, that outdoor cooking is more convenient and agreeable than the usual method of cooking, while my bread was still being baked, if a thunder shower was in sight. I put a couple of boards over the fire, then sit under them and watch my bread, and thus pass a few hours happily. Now our cooking utensils are becoming more and more useful, and we are cooking at home. But I remember when I was a child, we lived in a large courtyard, where each household cooked at the door in the open air, and we could see clearly what each household was eating. At that time, Thoreau cooked directly in the forest. In this way, I have a sturdy house with wooden tiles for a roof, wall panels, 10 feet wide, 15 feet long, 8-foot pillars, with a loft and a closet, 1 large window on each side, 2 doors leading to the cellar, and a large door at one end of the house, opposite to a brick fireplace. Below is the exact cost of my house. The following is the exact cost of my house. The boards are mostly shack boards, which cost $8.03. The old boards for the roof and exterior walls cost $4, and the laths cost $125. 2 second-hand windows with glass cost $243,000. Old bricks cost $4, 2 buckets of lime cost $2 and $4, and brackets were too expensive. Then there were too many old hair bricks, so I bought too much hair, and that jiang and the mantle iron cost 1.5 cents, and nails cost $3.9. You see how expensive nails are. Nails today are not so expensive. Nails back then were very expensive. Anklets and screws cost 1.4 cents, door bolts cost 10 cents, chalk cost 0.01, and transportation cost $1.4, and I carried a lot of it myself. How much did it cost in total? $28.12 It was less than $30. Before the house was built, I hoped to earn an extra $10 to $12 in an honest and pleasant way to cover additional expenses. For this, I plowed about 2 to 2.5 acres near the house, mainly planting beans, but also a small amount of potatoes, corn, peas, and radishes. The entire plot is 11 acres, mostly covered with pine and walnut trees. Last year the price was $8.80 per acre. An acre of land is quite large, isn't it? The price is $8 per acre. A farmer said it wasn't good for anything, only fit for feeding chattering squirrels. I didn't fertilize the land because I'm not the owner, just a squatter. The owner is Emerson, and I don't expect to cultivate so much land, so I didn't plow all of it. Thoreau saw many people using oxen to plow the land more efficiently, so he said, "I often think that the cows aren't being managed by people, but rather, people are being managed by the cows." Thoreau observed that many fellow farmers, after owning cows, had to do more work to support them, preparing food, preparing sheds, taking them to the vet if they got sick. But in reality, if you didn't have those cows, you could save a lot of efforts. Well, I would never tame a horse or a cow to do anything for me, for I fear that I would become a mere horseman or herdsman. And if society were thus benefited, could I be sure that one man's gain would not be another's loss, and that a horse herdsman and his master must have the same demands to fulfill? Thoreau pursued a minimalist lifestyle, so to him, even keeping a cow wasn't romantic because it added to his burden. He also did many other things, surveying, carpentry, and various odd jobs in the village, because I have as many skills as the number of my fingers. A person has 10 fingers, so Thoreau must have at least 10 abilities. What is included? The note says, I once was a principal, a private tutor, a surveyor, a gardener, a farmer, a painter, a mason, a day laborer, a pencil maker, a glass paper maker, a writer, and even a poet. I earned $13.34. From July 4th to March 1st, when these estimates were made, lasting 8 months, although I lived there for over 2 years. The food costs for these 8 months, excluding the potatoes I grew myself, a small amount of green corn, and some peas, and the value of the things I still had later. How much are the food costs? He listed all the things he ate: rice, syrup, rye flour, corn, pork, flour, sugar, etc. Indeed, I did eat $8.74 in total. That's how much he spent on food other than what he grew himself. Sometimes, of course, he would catch a few fish, and he did kill a groundhog. You can eat groundhogs. Thoreau once ate groundhogs. There were also some clothes and incidental expenses, with no specific accounts, and the total is $8.40.75. So finally, the house expenses, farm expenses, food expenses, etc. were added up to $61.9975, which was Thoreau's expenditure approximately over 8 months. Then, subtracting all the costs from the total income he had mentioned in the last part, the balance was minus $25.75, which means that he spent $25 in the first 8 months he lived in the place. This was about the same value as the money I prepared when I first started, and was an expected expense to be incurred. Besides, I gained leisure, independence, and health from it, as well as a comfortable house where I could stay as long as I liked. Today, many people are discussing whether we can embrace lying flat. In fact, Thoreau had already conducted such a social experiment back in 1845 and documented all the expenses, which is a particularly interesting matter. Next, let's look at what kind of freedom Thoreau obtained. He said, "Because I value certain things, especially my freedom, and because I can endure a hard life and even find joy amid hardship, I currently don't want to spend my time earning money to buy luxurious carpets or other high-end furniture, or exquisite cooking utensils, or a Greek or Gothic house. If someone thinks that acquiring these things is not a distraction and knows how to use them after obtaining them, I will gladly leave this pursuit to them." Thoreau actually had the opportunity to earn a lot of money. His family not only ran a school, but also a pencil factory, manufacturing pencils. However, when Thoreau interned at that pencil factory and experienced it, he said, "I absolutely will not do the same thing day after day. I don't want anyone to accept my way of life for any reason. Before he almost learned my way of life, I may already find another way of life. Furthermore, I hope there are more different people in the world. I hope everyone carefully finds and pursues his own path, not their father's, mother's, or neighbor's path. Young people can engage in construction, agriculture, or sailing, as long as it doesn't hinder them from doing what they really want to do." So Thoreau didn't expect everyone to learn from him. He just chose to do what he wanted to do.